Good evening. Waiting for some people to show up, and we'll begin our show tonight, our comments. And meanwhile, we signed on a little bit before 8. It is now 8 o'clock, September 9th. Oh, I take that back. September 7th. I'm already thinking about the weekend. I had one comment posted on my comment page, and I'll be mentioning that comment here a little bit later. I want to thank everyone for the participation that occurred last night. It was wonderful. And what can I say? More and more of us are talking about the issues that are affecting us. Tonight is part 3 of our Bring It Home series for this week. All this week we'll be referring to bringing it home and how we can affect our homes, not only our own home, our families, friends, but also our community. We still have the forest fires raging here in the Pacific Northwest. Henceforth, I'm consuming a lot of liquids. The windows are closed so as not to create a layer of ash inside the home. I know I do not have central air conditioning. That's okay. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. Shouldn't need it, really. But we covered a subject last night that's very near and dear to me, and that is DACA. And we had a lot of comments that were ancillary along with that on how our congressional representatives and Senate representatives are approaching the needs that we, the people, have. That is why I, Dave Strider, is a candidate for the U.S. Senate here in the state of Washington. I am an independent. I am an independent because it is your voice that needs to be heard. Not a corporation's voice, not a super PAC voice, but your voice. Coming in October, I'm hoping to have a Doctor of Information Technology on the show. His name is Charles E. Williamson. He's an author. He also has a website, I Need a Job. Check that out. Also check out Dr. Charles E. Williamson. He's a good friend of mine. He has some ideas on tech startup. And hopefully I'll be able to have him on a couple of shows right here in the studio here in October. We talked about DACA. And quite frankly, everything that's been done to overturn President Obama's social reforms, also even going as far as some of the consumer protection laws, are being overturned one by one by a very racist, bigoted, narrow-minded, money-grubbing Congress and Senate. Right now, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on because you're, okay, I'll vote for this one, but you got to vote for me on that one. Okay. That's called politicking. That is called fleecing people. You shouldn't have to say, I'll vote for you on this so I can get this. No, this bill is for the people. If it's not for the people, no, you cannot bring that to the floor for passage and then to the president's desk. Plain and simple. The people. And we are the wealthiest nation in this world, and the people should come first. We have 800,000 young men and women in this country right now under a program that was started under the Obama administration. And all of their hard work and all their diligence um, to be the best they can, they're being thrown to the wolves. Places that they don't know. They know of, but they've never been there. They don't have any family there. They grew up here. As far as they know, they've always been an American. And I say this because all of us in this country, except those native people, those first people who were here, which also include some of the Latino speaking, Latin speaking, Spanish speaking people of this nation, were all first. They were here when the Spanish conquistadors came through. Yeah, a long time before we issued Manifest Destiny for Coast to Coast and everything we laid our eyes on. We're a republic, remember? Not an empire. We need to protect those 800,000. We need to protect them. They earned the right to be here. Their diligence, their drive, their ambition, their dreams prove that they are what it is called the American spirit. They earned it. They live it. Do not take that away from them. As I started to say earlier, we're still experiencing the fires here in the Northwest. Now we have a front that's offshore that's going to clear out the air a little bit and bring in some rain. We're hoping that there'll be no lightning strikes prior to the rainfall, but that's a good possibility considering the dry conditions, the air itself. It's a good chance that we'll probably have additional lightning strikes, adding more places for overstretched firefighting brigades. Keep that in mind when you're out there in the woods, any place where there might be tender, flammable vegetation. Do not throw your cigarettes out. In the Marines, we made sure we field strip our cigarettes, getting rid of any fire or anything of that nature. And I suggest if you're going to smoke out in the wild that you also do the same. Do not throw cigarettes out the window. Make sure your charcoal and everything fires are put back. And this is my wife, Jidapa, and she brought me a strawberry smoothie, by the way.
Oh, watermelon.
Oh, watermelon. Watermelon. I stand corrected. I like the watermelon better than I do strawberry. Oh, it's so good. I wish I could share it with you all right now. But yes, back to the wildfires, the forest fires that are going on. There's a haze, there's a layer of ash on everything every morning. Basically, the first part of the rainfall will resemble acid rain in its context because of the ash in the water falling down. I'm just hoping that it doesn't turn into a high atmospheric, what do they call it? Acid rain. We also have two hurricanes that are headed to the direction of Florida and additional Caribbean islands. And we also have one in the Gulf of Mexico off the coast of Mexico that is growing. It's been a Cat 1. So that's three large storms that are going to be in our southeast corner of our nation. People are evacuating. They're running out of gas. They're running out of water. They're running out of food. Just a comment to say to my friends and family, no matter where you are, but especially in those areas that have uncertain weather conditions, and that is prepare dry goods, water, at least a 3-month supply, because it'll take 3 months for the supplies to start building back up to where prices start coming back down. in your areas. So I try to have a 3-month supply of dry food, canned food. Don't try to do anything that requires refrigeration unless you have alternative power sources off grid that you can provide your own refrigeration with, and also your own communication base. So try to have that, and try to have the water. Remember that you're going to need at least 4 bottles per day just to make it through. And for every meal, you're going to need at least 8 bottles of preparation water. You can make sure you have plenty of salt, because you can use salt to clean your serviceware, your silverware, your pots and pans. You can do that. And the salt will clean your pans up for you, and then a little bit of heat, and then season with oil. I don't know what the winter's going to hold for us. I have no clue. And if you're in an area which has frequent power outages, be sure that you have plenty of firewood. Consider solar energy probably the fastest and most ready alternative power supply that you can install in your homes. Prepare yourself for this coming winter to acclimate any heat bills that you may incur if you're running electric heat. So we need to start being prepared as a nation. Okay? We need to start being prepared as a nation. I noticed that FEMA was part of an emergency bill in Congress of over $15 billion for Harvey. And with this bearing down on Florida, I'm just wondering, will they be cutting another check? Will Congress be cutting another check for Irma and Jose, not too far from it? Now this third one here named Jose. How fitting, Jose. Basically the same week we find out about Jose as he was forming there in the mid-Atlantic. Trump issues his DACA thing, and Jeff Sessions smiles as he tells everyone. He has the spine of a paramecium. And, or some single-cell protoplast. He's not human in my book. He looks like something out of a cartoon strip. He probably doesn't like me either. I don't care. He's not a very good attorney. Okay? My wife that brought me the watermelon smoothie. My wife is an immigrant. We arrived in the United States in 2013. Thanksgiving weekend, which was kind of fitting. I lived in Thailand from January 9, 2013 until Thanksgiving holiday, November 2013. During that time, I processed and filed, beginning, I believe, in June, end of June, first part of July, my wife's immigration packet. Now, yes, there was a fees that went with that, but we paid them. And by October, she had her permission, her visa, to come to the United States. And people are saying, "Oh my God, how'd you do that? That was so fast, so fast." I read the rules. I read the rules. I read the guidelines. Okay? My being a Marine has nothing to do with my wife getting here faster than a lot of other people who applied. I followed the rules. Okay? And by following the rules and the guidelines written in the Department of Homeland Security and the immigration there at the department, I was able to make sure that my wife and I followed all the rules. We jumped through all the hoops, and we enjoyed ourselves together in Thailand. I didn't want to leave, to be honest with you. It's a beautiful place. In fact, my shirt right here, I'll bend this down. This right here is the symbol of the royal family. And if you want to know a little bit about the royal family, I suggest you just go to Thailand and Google royal family and its history, the Opium Museum, et cetera, et cetera. The Queen of Thailand at the time had a very major impact on the war on drugs. She redistributed all of her country's industry back into making sure that what happened was, instead of the farmers in the north next to Laos and Cambodia, there in the Golden Triangle, they started coffee and vegetables and fruits, creating commerce for the rest of the nation instead of just the warlords. The 1%, okay? The 1%, Thailand's 1%, those warlords and the drug trade. Overcame that. Yes, we're still fighting it. We got U.S. troops walking through opium fields. They should be torching them. They should be torching them, plain and simple. Call an airstrike, guys. Come on. Have fun. Piss off somebody who's got a heroin addiction or something, or making money off of people with heroin addictions. Torque them off. Call an airstrike. If they got any napalm laying around, see if you can get some napalm, and just torch those opium fields. Call in an airstrike and torch them. What are they going to do? Send you home? Good. If we are guarding those opium fields, we have no business there at all. Call in an airstrike and start wiping them out. And do it all at the same time. Do it all at the same time. Just, send the whole unit home. Everybody that's there, send them home. Including the guys who brought in the airstrike for you. We can whip that real quick. Let's make that our war on drugs, okay? We're there. We got presence. We got boots on the ground. We've got eyes on the target. Let's laser paint that son of a bitch and fire it up. Pretty simple, huh? We'll find out where our country's directions are, won't we? We'll find out where those leaders are, won't we? Okay, enough of that. There is also people that are talking about medical use of marijuana. One person wrote a comment the other night about that, last night, in fact. And we'll be addressing that here in a little bit when hopefully she'll identify herself when she signs in. Excuse me, we'll sneeze. But here, starting next week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll be attending city council meetings across the state of Washington. And with that, I'll be coming back and talking about some of the things that our local community talked about. Now, because I am a senator in the state of Washington, I want all of the people here in Washington to know that I am coming to see you. I want to talk with you, and I want to talk about the issues that are affecting you. Yes, we have national issues that are affecting us, but as your representatives in the U.S. Senate, I can address those issues directly for you. I can do that for you. I can give you a heads up when I come back on my town hall meetings. When I come back on my town hall meetings, I'm going to everywhere. I'm going everywhere. The places that I'm going to start going to here next week, the different council and mayoral offices in the different cities across this great state, I'll be introducing myself and asking them what their most urgent needs are. I have a feeling that when I get to Eastern Washington, they're going to be telling me about how they feel so separated from everything that's going on in Western Washington. Okay? We're a pretty big nation, And Washington is 3 times the size of the state that I grew up in, with half as many people. Now, there's been people that talked about, well, we just need to make 2 states. No, no, no. We are Washington. And there's no reason why the people in the eastern part of the state enjoy what is going on in the western part of the state. Consideration should be given to those people who are farming in agriculture, those people that are out there making a life out there. It's their home. And so we need to be able, Western Washington, to support those folks. We also need to help them protect our forest out there. We got to make sure that we don't let businesses come in and clear cut areas and then have entire towns buried under an avalanche because of poor land management. Because I grew up in an agriculture community, I know what erosion is, and I know what erosion can do, and I know that there are things that you can do to minimize. You can't always stop it. Water, given time, is one of the most powerful forces on this planet. But you can minimize it, and you can negate it in most cases if you're not stupid in what you're doing. Clear-cutting forest and then the possibility of landslides without reforestation is not a good thing. That is destined to clog up our streams where our salmon runs on. That's going to make the water acidic, the waste from the logging operation. We need to think about things when we do them. If we don't think it out or plan ahead and what the ramifications may be, and we don't do what we can to minimize that impact, we have no business doing that. If we cannot take care of our natural resources, salmon, that's food line, okay? They need clean water to survive, clean water that we eventually may consume, fish that we may consume. We need to think about what we're doing with our environment. There are many things that we could do to help Eastern Washington thrive, and we need to do that. Western Washington, we are a state, we are one. And for you guys who are talking separatists, I'm sorry, I'm not in that camp. I'm running for the Senate to be one of the 2 senators of this great state. That includes Eastern, Mountain Time, people who live in the mountains and the hillsides, and the valley people below. That's all of Washington. All of you. Not another Washington, not another state, but one state. And we're working together, prospering together. Okay? If there's a big highway project going on in Western Washington, folks, you in Eastern Washington need to have your own that you're working on and not paying for Western Washington. You see what I'm saying? We need to make sure that our senators in Olympia and our congresspeople in Olympia and your congresspeople in the nation's capital and in the Senate are doing what they can to help both parts of the state thrive. Okay? Better roads through the mountains for one. A lot safer. But we need, as elected officials, your public servant, need to listen to what the voices are saying and what the homes and the workers need. Okay? Well, let's see here. I'm halfway into the broadcast. And are there any people out there tonight that are familiar with the personal use of marijuana? I have a guest that was on last night that was asking that question: what are the laws governing someone growing their own uh, marijuana? So if you folks could chime in, give me some ideas, post them here, laws that she can revert to, do that and put that up there so that it can be read by everyone. We live in a state, fortunately, that has recreational and medical marijuana. That is a good thing when you consider that its classification is not good. It needs to be taken off the same schedule as heroin. I mean, crying out loud, we're giving safe houses for uh, people who have the addiction of heroin, safe houses to go and inject with medical staff there in case of an overdose. We have police departments across the country, not all of them, but we have police departments across the country who have those little pins, like the EpiPens for someone who may be having a seizure or whatever. Why can't we have a reclassification of marijuana, which has so many other uses, not only for human consumption and health, but also for textiles and manufacturing? Why can't we have that? We don't need to cut down trees for paper. We can use cannabis. Okay? Even use it for toilet paper. Tablets for at school. So, I mean, there are many uses. And I would like any of the people on here tonight who know of or are familiar with the personal growing of marijuana, uh, put on a link or something so that it can be researched by that person. Okay? Thank you. Um, it's health, your health, it's a right. So it's also personal use. Um, it's a lot safer than alcohol. I hardly ever consume alcohol. I don't like what it does to me. When we go out to nightclubs with friends, I am the designated driver. I want you to get home, my friend. I want you to have a good time, my friend. And I'm going to make sure that you get home safely. No, I'm not going to tuck you in, but you're going to go in your house and cry, fall flat on your face, probably, uh, if you want, right there in your hallway. And when you wake up in the morning, but the thing is, we went out, we had a good time, you had a good time, and you got home safe. You didn't have to worry about a driving under the influence ticket. Okay? Something to think about. As I mentioned, I'll be going around in all the different states. Uh, Not the states, but all the cities and communities in my area starting next week. It'll be on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I won't be broadcasting at that time. Perhaps my campaign manager can uh, pick up something, or we'll come up with something that we can still keep the dialogue going. Or he may rebroadcast on those particular nights. I'm not sure at this time. We'll work something out for you, and we'll make sure that it's noticed. But at this time, Tuesdays and Thursdays, from now until the general election next year, I will be visiting all of the communities within the state of Washington. Now, having said that, I have all the contact information I need to get in touch with those people. And as I've said many, many times, I am funding this campaign by myself. So what I'm doing is I'm asking not only for your assistance in volunteering whether it be phone booths or passing the word, setting up meetings that I'm going to be at. And I'll be announcing those meetings where I'll be at in the city of blah, 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 visiting council, making the introduction. I'll be meeting the shakers and movers in those villages. And that's going to be important for our statewide campaign, to meet those people that are forgotten by the other campaigns. And but we'll be doing that. And if you can make a donation to the campaign, I've thought about what can I do for fundraising? I don't know. There are many different things that we could do for fundraising. Okay. If I had, for instance, here in the Tacoma area in the Puget Sound, we have a lot of musical bands that would be great to give them some cover time, at a gig. My campaign rally, okay? And there'd be maybe a $5 or $10 fee to get in, listen to music and everything. There'll be no alcohol at the venue that I'll be promoting. I mean, I'm sure that there'll be beers and stuff because it most likely will be in a nightclub. But I'm advocating that if you do come in and you do have a few, that drink sensibly, and come with someone who is your designated driver. Okay, but you can have a good time. There's great musicians around the Puget Sound, and perhaps we could find some venues where admission would be your contribution to my campaign. It'd be a $5 or $10 thing. The band is showcasing, so they're doing it to promote themselves, not so much my campaign, although it is a benefit having live music at your campaign. Yeah, it is. And so it may be a way that we can raise some money for my campaign and have a great time in different areas. So for those of you who are listening to this particular broadcast, get in touch with my campaign and see if we can work something out that falls within the Federal Election Committee guidelines. Want to make sure of that. Because I do need to get to all these places. I do have a fuel economy car. Just around town, I get about 40 miles to the gallon or better. On the open highway, I get anywhere from 34 to 38, depending on how fast I drive. And so it takes a tank of gas to get across the state. And so let's make it happen, people. Help me get out to these local places. And as they get to know and they come on board with us and they start putting their questions and comments in, our campaign will grow. I picked up another professional today, as far as someone who is a professional. And I didn't ask for it. She gave it freely. So I'm very pleased with that. It says one thing for our campaign, is that our objectivity toward lies and our desire to speak only the truth is actually panning out for us. We need to continue that. If I misspeak or seem to offend, my intent is not to offend, but it's to lay bare what is happening in our country. There will always be racists, there will always be bigots. There's nothing we can do about that. But we can, with a little bit of backbone, we can stand up to them and say, hey, listen, no, okay, you're entitled to speak the way you want and think the way you want. But if you're going to go intimidating people with your hate speech, it's got to stop. Plain and simple, it's got to stop. Okay? It has to stop. You can talk about it all you want behind your closed doors. But you do not want to be the catalyst that causes someone, an innocent, to be hurt. because I will do everything in my power to see that you pay for that. Okay? You will pay for it. One of the things that I'd like to see more of is our politicians actually showing some compassion. And how do we do that? Well, we register and we vote and we put those progressives and those young independents in there. Okay? We get them in there. I believe in term limits. I believe in term limits. And the reason I believe in term limits is this. You get escaled into the system. You went and did your job. If you did it well and you did things for the people, you did things for the world as well after taking care of the people. If you did everything you could not to send our men and women into wars for money, you did a good thing. For 12 years, that's enough. The president only gets 8. So yes, I'm announcing my my run for my second term tonight as well, and that'll be my end. That'll be the end. I'll be finished. I'll get to go back to retirement and my new watermelon smoothie. Oh, thank you, honey. Um, but I'm only going to do 2 terms. That's it. So yes, I'm also announcing my uh, return with a second run for Senate. I'll be running as an incumbent because you folks are going to help me get there the first time. Okay? Pass the word. And the work that I'm going to be doing driving around the country meaning Washington, will also spread the word of what I'm trying to do for Washington and making sure it doesn't happen to the rest of the country as well. Time for eyeballs. If they did a good job, they can go back into society. I agree. Yes. And it's good to see you tonight. Good to see you, Chi. Dave's not here. Well, yeah. at least you're here, Dave, right? Okay. But I need to start campaigning more here in the state of Washington. And we'll continue to have our podcast, our live shows, 4 nights a week. Because I'm coming off the Facebook.com, it's going to be an easy access for me to get on. If I have to spend the night over across the mountains 1 or 2 nights so I can effectively visit the folks there, then I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. Eastern Washington is spread out. It's agricultural based. It has deserts. It has mountains. It has plains. It has orchards. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful plateau. I encourage anyone who gets a chance to visit Eastern Washington. The vegetables, the fruits. There's a little village called Leavenworth, which is a reconstruction or a design based on a Bavarian Alp or an alpine village. Lots of good food, international cuisine, authentic German style cooking, and as well as German brew, which is available as well. Lots of nice shops and nice accommodations. So I encourage you, if you get a chance, visit Eastern Washington. Leavenworth is beautiful in the wintertime, especially when they have their annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony. The whole town lights up. It's beautiful. I encourage you to also check to see that. I'll be taking my glasses off and on as I see comments being posted. And you said if they do a good job, they can go back into society. I agree. I believe we were talking about the 800,000. Also, I'd like to address something that I got a call out of the blue today. It was a missed number, but he called 2 or 3 times. And when I called back, he says, "Well, who are you?" And he told me, and he said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Dave." I said, "I thought you were calling because of the campaign that I'm running." He said, "What's that?" I said, "I'm running for Senate, U.S. Senate here in Washington." He said, I can't vote. He said, "I can't vote." He says, "I'm a felon." Well, I look at it this way, and I hope that you'll look at it here in this explanation as well. If you know anyone who's ever been convicted of a felony or filled out a job application, it asks you, have you been convicted of a felony in the last 10 years? Well, if you haven't been convicted of a felony in the last 10 years, but you had the unfortunate placement of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or were convicted wrongly, but you still had that felony, that it was 15 years before that question, have you been convicted of a crime in the last felony in the last 10 years? And you say no, because it was 15 years, 5 years before the cutoff date. So well within the cutoff date. But then they come back to you and they say, well, I'm sorry, sir. We asked you about the felony thing and you said that you weren't, and we discovered that you were. But he answered the question, or she answered the question correctly. It should not have been a reason not to have that person considered for hiring, or even lose a position because of that. Those things need to be changed. If you served your time, we're talking about those who had criminal activity. If you served your time and everything is done, then you should be able to have your voting rights restored. You should be able to gain employment without repercussions because of something that happened in your past that you have already paid for. Sounds like a really good Christian nation when they start throwing that shit at you, doesn't it? I mean, where's the compassion? You got a person who did their thing, paid back to the community, and now they're wanting to give even more to the community, to their family, and they can't because some narrow-minded person decides that they're going to weed it out so maybe their friend can get the job. I stand with you folks who served your time and you did it right. I stand with you. You paid the price for your transgression. And you should have all your rights restored. Okay? That's my stand on it. Without getting into the details, that's how I stand. And yes, that's part of the platform that I'm taking to Washington, D.C., and that is to start with judicial reform. But something right here in the state of Washington that we're working on right now, and that is Initiative 940. That's where we are voting on our ballot next year to make sure that police are trained in de-escalation, that they are also trained in emergency medical application. So if they shoot somebody, they have the ability to keep them alive until the medics get here. We need to de-escalate our police force, and Initiative I-940 is a good start. It's going to help the police rebuild the trust, but they're going to have to train for it. And hopefully in the training, they're going to be able to weed out those who would do harm to the populace with their judge, jury, and executioner attitude. We need to get rid of those kind of people off of our forces. Then perhaps we can start presenting true criminal cases to the judge and magistrates and the prosecutors. True cases, not ones born out of hate or protecting a police officer who maliciously shot someone. And I say that because all the times that they get to go shoot their pistol and their weapons, they should be able to crack that shot wherever they want. They should be able to immobilize. And the pistol is their last resort. They go out there with all kinds of stuff to defend themselves and to subdue the suspect or the person who broke the crime, who broke the law. They go out there. And if they can't do it by themselves, call for backup. Two more reasons to police officers loaded with all the tools that they need and weapons that they do not need to draw. And if you boys, the two of you, can't handle the one, I think you need to start taking lessons from Bruce Lee. That way you can knock them down, subdue them. They're still alive. They can go to court, have their day in court. And if they're wrong, do their time. And if you're wrong, you get to go back into more training. But we've got to do that. And Initiative I-940 here in the state of Washington is a good place to start. I encourage all of you listening that are not in the Washington State area to do what you can to get something very similar. Go to our website and click on the link, and it'll take you there. You can download the form. You can see what it's all about, and perhaps you can get it on the ballot for next year in your state. I encourage you to do so. Thanks for bringing that up. Well, tonight, it looks like we're right on time. I showed up on time, and that means we'll get to finish on time. And I hope that, like another listener did last night, after the fact, wrote some more comments. Now we're going back through all the comments, and we're going to try to take some of the top comments out and discuss those in depth. We may be able to get all of them in one show, but the point is it may be so many, and the depth of the conversation that we'll have will warrant multiple times that we get together. And again, starting next week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I will be visiting different municipalities here in Washington State, and some of them are across the place, but I'll be able to do a remote where I'm at. It won't be as lengthy as some of our get-togethers, but it'll give you an idea as to what is happening, what I was able to do the day before, because I was with the council and with the mayor's office. But it's important that I stay in contact with you and give you updates as to how I'm doing in those areas not as populated as Western Washington. Now, Western Washington's pretty big too. I mean, there are areas that are spread out too, but here in the Puget Sound, from the Canadian border down to Chehalis and Centralia, it's pretty well jam-packed. And then the urban growth is pushing up against the mountain range and the foothills. It's expanding out. All the more reason I'm going to hit this again, because I don't want anyone not to take it out of their conversation, and that is fresh water. Today, I saw a report on a local newscast. It blew me away. They're finding that across the nation, 83% of the water supply, civilian, your municipal water supplies, have microfiber plastic in it. Micro, that means very small pieces of plastic, also known as stuff that PCBs are contained in. Micro size. That would include our bottled water as well. And if it's micro, maybe our filters on our refrigerators that are hooked up may be getting some of it, but it is a concern. You might want to, I don't know how we would test it. I don't know if it's a false flag, but all things considering what corporations have been doing with their water, I mean, there was that. Does anybody know about those beads in the shampoo or your facial cleanser? Those little beads? Those are being ingested by the marine life. Fish. All of them. It's killing the waterways. So if you can, try not to use those little micro beads in your facial cleanser. Use a washcloth, soft one, if you have to. And a low-grade soap, it doesn't have those micro beads in it. And also you might consider finding out where your city stands on the fibers that were mentioned on Channel 7 tonight. Just another reason for us to protect and support the water protectors. It's coming up winter, and last year they were hosed down with water cannons. We need to be there to make sure that they've got tarps, water, dry food, rice, beans, some different sauces, salt, pepper, meats that are smoked that don't need refrigeration, and do what we can to support our water protectors and their fight to making sure that pipelines do not come through. Well, it's 9 o'clock here, almost, in the Pacific Northwest. And do we have any more comments? Are those microbeads banned yet? Good question. I don't think they are. I think you can still find them in products that are on shelves in some places. It may be worded differently. It may have tiny tiny bubbles, tiny scrub, something that scrubs, but look for it. Because if it's not organic, if those little beads are not organic, meaning that if they weren't like smooth sand, almost like clay, I wouldn't use it if you're going to use something for a facial. That's my opinion. I used to sell Avon many years ago. Yes, I did. And I encouraged the women not to buy a lot of makeup. We had, I would do skin things, demonstrate the products for them, and send them home with bunches of samples and stuff. Didn't make a lot of money at it, but the women sure look good. I mean, I showed them how to use just a little bit to look very attractive, highlight their beauty, maybe their eyebrows, or maybe their cheekbones, where their main feature, maybe their lips were, but able to accent their features, their highlights, without a lot of makeup. I mean, I kept telling them, I says, you're not on stage. You don't need a lot of makeup. Most of when you have your makeup on, you're within 10 feet of the people that you're with. And personally, I like just very little makeup myself on a woman. And maybe that's why I didn't sell very much. But the women who bought from me, they had skin tones for every season of the winter, of the year. When it was winter, they had the skin tones they needed. Spring, summer, fall, they had the skin tones that they needed for their ideal makeup shades. So, the microbeads, have they been banned? I have not heard nothing from them, but I do know that they were there, and probably they still are in some capacity, some way, because manufacturers, corporations do not like getting or destroying product. They just recycle it into something else. Okay? In other countries, the inmates are allowed to vote. Well, you know, in Thailand, they have universal health care and they have national Wi-Fi, and the exchange rate is 35 to 1. And yes, they may not have everything they want, but you can go anywhere in that country. And if you show respect to the people there, all you'll get back is smiles, beautiful smiles, and cooperation, them wanting to help you without you having to give them anything. I recommend, too, that if you go to a foreign country, that you travel by taxi. The best way to get someplace. Make sure that your driver speaks some kind of English, or you have the directions written down that you can show your driver where you want to go. It costs a little bit extra for you to hold your driver. But if you're just going in to eat, you can give him or her a tip. Tell them to go get something to eat and come back and pick me up in about an hour. And by golly, guess what? They'll be there waiting for you. Okay? So, think about the exchange rate. Think about what other countries are doing that the greatest nation on earth, as far as the richest nation on earth, are not providing for our people. Some of the upcoming segments we have, we're going to be talking why there's no problem with us having those kind of things. I want to thank you all for coming by. If you have any comments, visit our page and leave those comments, and we will get to them on the following night. Next Tuesday and Thursday, I will be at different council meetings. Remember, if you can, volunteer for me, or if you can donate, or you have an idea for a fundraiser for the campaign, drop us a line. We're interested, okay? I'm lousy at asking for money, but I'm adamant about your vote, okay? That is what I need. And if you can help set up some of these meetings with me, we can have some fun, okay? Let's have some fun. Let's have our opponents spend every single dime they've got on losing, okay? You and me. Good night. See you tomorrow night. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. And don't forget your comments. Good night.